Well, hello again, friends and leaders. Welcome back to What Leaders Want. I'm your host, Jay Delling, and it's here where we peel back the proverbial onion on how leadership makes the world go around. And I'm really excited about today. Our focus is going to be on the PEO space, the professional employer organizations. And our guest today is Jay King. He's the CEO of Simploy. It's an HR outsourcing organization located in St. Louis. Jay, thanks for stopping by to talk about the impact leadership has on your business and the PEO industry, and to talk about leadership in general. So welcome.
Sure. Glad to help.
All right, Jay, so you have a really unique story on how you made your entrance into the PEO space. Talk about how that came about for you.
Man, I don't know how far back to go, Jay, but originally I was an architect, and had a degree in architecture. I practiced architecture for several years. I grew up in Tennessee, went to University of Tennessee, got my architect's degree, moved to St. Louis for 3 years. That's how long it took to get registered. And then I was going to go back to Waverly, where I grew up, and do something with my brothers. But married a St. Louis girl, and that generally dooms you to a life in St. Louis when you marry a St. Louis girl, or blesses you with it. I feel blessed. I practiced architecture for a long time. Then I started my own business, not in architecture, but providing contract people to architects and engineers and contractors. And I hired a PEO to help me because I had employees in lots of states. There happened to be one in St. Louis. I interviewed a real big one, and then I said, well, maybe there's another one I should talk to, because I like the story, the PEO story. And then back then I found the PEO in the yellow pages, if you can believe it or not,
Well,
in the
that
early 2000s. It was called the Varsity Group. It was founded by a guy named David Avakian. It was one of the first PEOs in the country. He started in 1990. In 2004, I bought that company. So, and have owned and operated it ever since.
Well, you've obviously been successful leading Simploy as you serve employees and clients in over 30 states. What is it about your leadership style that allowed an architect major at the University of Tennessee to lead and position Simploy into one of the top PEOs in the country? Tell us about that.
Well, man, sometimes I kind of feel like for me it happened by accident, but as I look back on it, I can see things that I did that were good. I don't know if you know exactly how I came to some of the decisions I did, and some of them weren't that good decisions, to tell you the truth. But leadership, it's such a general term, but to me, it's not it's not what you do, it's who you are. So I've always been that person, able to deal with people and try to inspire people and try to be a blessing to people. And that's a big part of leadership, which has helped me be successful. And I guess I've had that from the beginning.
So, Jay, you're an avid reader, I know. One of your favorite authors is Admiral William H. McRaven. He's a Navy SEAL. Tell us about what drew you to him and what leadership lessons you gleaned from his influence on you.
Well, my son loaned me a book that he had written. I think it was my son. Um, and then my wife gave me the second book. I'm still reading it by him, but I used to have been very skeptical about the similarities between military leadership and business leadership. But when I read his books, it doesn't seem like it's much different, at least the things that really matter. Uh, One of the things that stuck with me that he said was, um, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, when you're in command, take command. That might have been exactly what he said, but I've learned that at some point somebody's just got to step up, and it's got to be the leader. But you have to know when to step up, and then you have to step up. If you're in charge, you have to do it. But there's a lot of tricks to that trade too.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, obviously, reading influences you, and influence is something that all great leaders have some kind of impact on. And there's really three forms of influence. It's how we're influenced, right? And it might even start very early in life. It's how we influence others, and it's how we also influence ourselves. Jay, tell us something about your influencers. Maybe early in your life, maybe it was a coach, teacher, a parent, a family friend. Talk to us about who influenced you over your life.
Well, my primary influencers have been my dad and my son. I guess it's strange to say that you can be influenced by your son in a leadership way, but he really has. He's influenced me. He's my hero. He's just the kind of person I'd want to be at his age. But enough about him. My dad was my first real mentor and example of leadership, and affected me. Still affects me. I still remember things that Daddy told me. I'm from the South, so he's Daddy, and my mother was Mother. It's a little different in most places, but he was he'd actually been a night fighter in the Second World War, a hero really. Anyway. He did a lot of really cool things. If the things you do in war can be considered cool. I came home and started a business in a little town, building materials business, and but just watching him, the way he led his company or led the family, a little more conservative than we do today, but it had a big influence on me. He was a pretty cool guy.
Jay, would you say that, because I've heard you talk about your son before, and we won't talk a whole lot about that because it's kind of an emotional topic. I know your son Carson, great young man, and I can see how you can certainly look up to him. But as you think about the influencers in your life, how has that kind of shaped you now to be an influencer of others, and specifically an influencer in your organization?
Well, I just remember how people influenced me in my life as I was growing up, or in business, in school, having my own business. I just think about what are the things that were most impactful on me that people did and influenced me, and how did that go? And it's pretty much the same for everybody. Nobody wants to be bullied. Nobody wants to be pushed around, denigrated. Everybody wants to be given the opportunity to really get some into what they're doing. You want to encourage people. Those are the things that I noticed motivated me, or allowed me to get motivated. So I just tried to emulate those and imitate the people that had treated me that way. Plenty of people, and we've all had them, treat you differently. Teachers, business associates, some of them are just in it for money. Teachers sometimes just want to lord over you. I didn't get along with a lot of teachers, but I got along with a few, and those are the ones that knew how to do it. And I've just tried to be like them.
So now we're at the point in the show, Jay, where we get to know Jay King a little bit. All right. So I'm going to ask a question, or I'm going to ask you to pick between two things. All right. So there's no points awarded, no prizes earned. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
All right. Let's go. All right. You and Thomas Jefferson, which is the third president of the United States, have something in common. What is it?
Well, one of our names starts with the letter J.
Well, that's a start. Both.
Well, when I think about Thomas Jefferson, he was the president, of course, but the greatest thing he ever did was, help to create the democracy and lay the ground rules, and, help write the Constitution. So that took a real sense of service, a real servant leadership type for him. And I think being a servant's really important too. So, not to toot my horn, but I feel like I'm like in that way.
Yeah, we're going to talk about servant leadership in a minute, but here's the other thing that you two have in common. You are
What's
both
that?
you are both educated architects.
Oh, that's right. He was an architect.
Was an architect. All right. Frank Lloyd Wright or Louis Henry Sullivan.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
There you go. The Brooklyn
And
Bridge or the Golden Gate Bridge.
Brooklyn Bridge.
The Empire State Building or what is now the Willis Tower, what used to be the Sears Tower in Chicago.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go with Sears Tower.
Okay. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park or Graceland.
Oh man. They're on each end of where the state I grew up in. Graceland's in Memphis, and the Smoky Mountains are in East Tennessee. Uh, I don't want to feel like I'm going to betray Elvis, but the Smoky Mountains are a lot grander than Graceland's kind of a small place. Once you get there, it's surprisingly small, but Smoky Mountains are big, so I'll go with the mountains.
Tennessee has 2 recognized state birds. Not every state has 2 birds. What are those birds?
I don't remember. I'm going to guess it's not the jaybird.
No, although
I used to know that, but I thought we just had one. I can't remember what it is.
I did my due diligent research and I found that Tennessee has 2 state birds, the mockingbird and the bobwhite quail.
Well, mockingbird came to mind, but that doesn't seem like a very good state bird to me. I don't like mockingbirds, but I remember that one. And then the bobwhite. Okay.
Yeah.
No jaybirds, though.
There you go. All right. Who is the all-time greatest Tennessee volunteer football player?
Oh, it'd have to be Mr. Manning.
Yeah. Over Reggie White?
Yeah.
Okay. I respect that. All right. Nashville hot chicken or Memphis barbecue?
Hot chicken.
Oh, yeah. I would have predicted you would have gone with
I
barbecue.
like barbecue, but I can get that pretty easy. It's hard to find that hot chicken around here.
All right. I've heard it's amazing.
It's
All right.
hot.
Yeah. It's hot. Thus hot chicken. All right. What's your favorite movie of all time?
I think Saving Private Ryan is my favorite movie.
That is a good one. Love Tom Hanks. All right. What's the most recent book you've read or reading currently?
The most recent is Thinking the Future. It's actually by 2 people, a guy named Sunter and Ilberry. I'm reading that now.
So what's your dream foursome? You and 3 other people, living or dead. Fill out your foursome.
Well, Carson's on it.
There you go.
And then I'd probably let him pick the 2. But
no, he's not on What Leaders Want. This is your foursome.
Well, I've got to think about it because a few names come to mind. Of course, Tiger and Jack, and then Nicholson, and go way back. I'm going now. Can they be young as long as I'm fantasizing?
Yeah, they can be young. They can be old. They can be alive. They can be dead.
All right, I would take then Jack Nicholson and Tiger Woods in their mid-30s.
Oh, that would be a good match. Nicklaus versus Woods in their 30s. Well, I'd like to see that's a made for TV right there. All right, Jay, back to the ranch. No prizes awarded. No money earned. Sorry to disappoint you there. So every conversation I have on What Leaders Want will include the topic, what is my most impactful leadership moment? Tell us about that moment for you.
That moment actually involved my dad. Um, like I said, he had a business selling building materials, making concrete blocks, had a concrete plant. It was hardware. If you needed something to build with, you could go in there and you could get it. But uh, and when I was in high school one day, and it was in the summer because I worked summers. We came in one day and the main office had burned down with a lot of stuff in it, and that's where we conducted business. That's where we stored a lot of stuff. And I looked, I was. It scared me when I saw what had happened. I didn't know what was going to happen, what we were going to do. I was alarmed, but Daddy, who was generally usually a pretty reserved person, seemed to move slow, you know, thoughtful, ponder things. Well, he just jumped into action and did everything that was necessary to keep the business going. Figured it out. You know, we had another building. He cleaned out the lumber out of there. We set up an office. He put and he just. I was amazed at how he, you know, jumped into a leadership role so easily. Of course, I'm not surprised now, but that's the first time I've ever really experienced that I can remember real leadership in action. It reinforced my opinion about my dad, and it reinforced what I said a while ago, that if you're in command, you have to take command. Daddy did that, and it impressed me.
And again,
Still does.
he was one of your influencers. So let's kind of stay with that leadership theme. You mentioned servant leadership as we were getting to know you. Share with our audience about this idea of servant leadership and how it applies to you and how you lead Simploy.
Um, it it's not real complicated. One year it got articulated to me in a way that, confirmed, I guess, what I knew already. But it was Thanksgiving, and our office probably had 10 people in it then, or 9, and so we all got together and, you know, uh, talked about Thanksgiving for a few minutes. That it was actually Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and everybody was thankful to be there, thankful and thanking me. And at that point, it occurred to me, I said, I need to thank them. They're thanking me for having a job and having some place to work, but I got to thank them. They're the ones that make this work. So it's my job to serve them. Um, and I guess it goes both ways, but we definitely have to serve each other. And that's, it just seems to me that that's a much more peaceful and more effective, and it it matches the way most of the people I know think.
So Jay, how do you teach or how do you coach to servant leadership? Because um, you and I have had some pretty deep conversations about that. Um, and servant leaders, to me, are the most impactful leaders because it to you, the short time that you and I have known each other, I gather that you get more joy out of other people's success than your own. How do you coach to that? How do you teach that? How do you hope that those that you lead will pay attention and therefore lead from their perspective?
There's a couple of ways. First you have to lead by example. You have to be a role model for the team. You have to demonstrate the same values and behaviors that you expect from others. You have to be living examples of the company's mission and the ethics and the integrity. But before that, or concurrent with that, you have to tell people, you have to show people, you have to identify, you have to articulate, and what is the company? What are we here for? What are we doing? Um, and we call it a mission statement. We're going through EOS traction now, so we've done some exercises that have helped us to memorialize things. But our mission, our core value is to help people.
Yeah.
to improve their life, to enrich their lives. And that's, if we interview based on that stuff. And if people, I don't know if I have to lead it. It's just, it's more like finding people that can operate that way, because once you figure that out, you don't want to change.
Jay, many industries have national associations that provide a voice and advocacy for their members. I know you're a big fan of your national advocacy, NAPIO. Talk about your passion and commitment with NAPIO and what that relationship means to you and Simploy.
It's interesting because I was an NAPIO holdout for a while. I was a member of another organization called PACE. It's still around. But we were at one point the anti-NAPIO. Maybe that's not fair to say.
For you.
But when Pat Cleary came into NAPIO, things seemed to, my impression of the organization changed. And then he actually called me one day, and I was a little humbled by it. We're not a real big PEO, we're average. We rank pretty high, but a real big potatoes compared to some of those folks in there. But he called me, and I talked to him about what my concerns were, and he had good, thoughtful answers, and he had understanding. And so Pat's the one that sold me on NAPIO, but man, I should have joined a lot sooner, because there's so much stuff there that's good for the way we want to do business, and so many other people I know that are in the business and serve the business. NAPIO is a really big asset. I don't pay as much attention to the political things they encourage, but I understand that's just enormous for our industry. But they support us in a lot of other ways too, with research and resources. And if I need to go to another state, they've got the resources to figure out how my PEO can get in that state and help us. And they've always helped with everything. And they give a fabulous yearly conference too. It's just getting better every year. Meet a lot of people there. It helps our business, helps us make more money, helps us save money, helps us do things better. Man, I should get paid for that. I'm going to send Pat a bill.
Yeah, we need to send this to Pat, right?
Yes, for sure.
So Jay, if you were to sit down and have a discussion with Jay King in his 20s, what advice would you give him?
Well, man, are we talking business advice or personal advice?
I just said advice.
I would say when you get comfortable trying to be a blessing for people, your life's going to be much better. So make that happen as soon as you can.
Wow, you can apply that, Jay. You can apply that both to personal life and professional life, can't you?
Sure. I mean, you have to. It's my company has a mission statement, but I have the same mission statement personally. And I think that's real helpful. Makes it a lot simpler for me going through life. I'm not always true to it. I can't list what stuff I've done wrong, but at least that's what I'm aspiring to.
Right.
And it's aspirational, and most of the time we do a pretty good job of it.
Right. And you say you don't always accomplish that, and I appreciate you saying that, because it isn't a destination, isn't it a journey?
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, we're never going to actually be there. We're just trying to get there, and that's. I think if you ever thought you actually arrived, then you'd be missing the point entirely.
Totally missing the boat. Jay, thanks for your time today and sharing your thoughts about leadership. I really enjoyed our time together. Friends, that's a wrap. We're going to put a bow on this episode of What Leaders Want. Until we meet again, remember, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you, my friends, are leaders. Bye now.